Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Nelson with TUG, and I'm delighted to have you join us this afternoon for our TUG Connects 365 program. As you get settled in and get ready to hear our content today, let me give you a brief introduction to TUG, our user group, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who are not yet members of our Infor distribution community. Knowledge is power. And let me say that after today, you'll have a little more of both, helping you to work smarter tomorrow with regard to the content that you're going to hear. Webinars, online forums, and member events help you to work smarter and with more confidence. And that is a powerful and winning combination. Current members, you know it pays to get more involved. So if you're not currently involved, jump on in. And for those of you who are not yet members, join us by looking at our website, www.theusergroup.com, and find out why 2,300 heads are better than one. So at this time, without any further delay, it gives me great pleasure to turn things over to Brad Mcguire. Brad, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce Rhea, Randy, and Phil, who are here to join you in our A+ virtual network meeting today. Go ahead and take it away, Brad.
All right, will do. Thank you, Gloria. Let me share my screen here. All right, very good. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you all for joining today. I really appreciate everyone's participation. First, I want to start by saying how excited I am about really the amount of participation that we have for today's webinar. I think we have about 52 people that are registered for it, which is pretty amazing. A+ companies, I want to say, are some of the most innovative that I've ever been around, really both in business and technology. And one of my goals as the TUG chairman over the next couple of years is really to rebuild the A+ user group so that we can all share in that innovation that we have. We can really share with each other because I think that's very important in business, especially these days. Also, I did want to mention that TUG Connects, which is our annual user conference. I know a lot of you have attended that in the past. TUG Connects is going to be held virtually this year, which really provides a tremendous amount of opportunity for all of us to be able to attend not only ourselves as kind of champions of A+ in our companies, but also for all of our users to be able to attend the conference. So one of the things that we'll be looking out for at some point in the near future is, first off, an announcement of the dates, but also looking for some ideas for sessions that you may be interested in seeing or even presenting during the conference. So definitely look out for that pretty soon. If you've got any ideas, then you can send them to any of our panelists that are on board right now. And speaking of the panelists, just to introduce briefly each of them, we've got myself. I work for American Paper and Twine Company out of Nashville. Rhea Murray with Atlantic Corporation. Randy Morris with Thermo Fisher Scientific, and Phil Maehr, who most of you probably know from Aktion Associates. Just to cover some of the discussion topics that we're going to be presenting today. We have first we want to talk about Infor upgrade to 10.03.01, what some of the advantages of are for that, as well as A+ Web. Are you using it? What are the advantages of using A+ Web? We'd like to have a conversation on third-party applications that are used around A+, really to enhance the value of A+. A+ training topics, just to get some ideas for what you all may be looking for. And then finally, if there's anything else that you want to talk about, please enter them into the Zoom chat and we'll try to fit them in today. And if we can't fit them in today, then we'll certainly add them to a future discussion. That is definitely one of my goals as well. Is I don't anticipate this being a one-time event. I do want to repeat this type of webinar roundtable in the future as well. To go through some of the ground rules, first off, we want you to join the conversation. This is a roundtable discussion. So if you're interested in joining the conversation, please feel free to raise your hand and do so. Your mic's going to be muted initially, but if you do have something to add to the conversation, because I know a lot of you do, please enter that into the chat section for the panelists, and we'll unmute you and you can join the conversation with us as well. The other thing is if you've got questions to ask, certainly use the Q&A session within Zoom. It's a pretty easy function to use right within your Zoom panel, or you can just use the chat feature within Zoom to get into any of the panelists' attention as well. So with that, I'd like to kind of open up a little bit with a poll. So the first poll question that we have is, what version of A+ are you currently using? So if you can open up the poll for us, Gloria, thank you. So if everyone can please submit your poll answers, we'll just give a second for you to do that.
We have 28 people online, and so far we've only had responses from 15. Come on out of the woodwork and jump in and share what platform version you're running on. We want to hear from you and know who our audience is. Only 12 more to go. We're going to give it 10 more seconds here.
Excellent.
And there you go, Brad.
All right. So it looks like we have, we're at a pretty good mix. We've got a handful of people that are running 10.03 as well as 10.02 and a pretty good percentage at 10.01. And then the largest percentage actually is earlier than version 10.0. So what are the things that we do want to discuss today? What are the what are the advantages of upgrading to the latest version of A+. So with that, I'd like to introduce Randy Morris, who's going to kind of lead that discussion topic for us.
Hi, thanks, Brad. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me.
We can.
So, you know, we're currently running 10.0 cumulative 3, and we are a heavily modified environment. And so we started talking about, you know, doing an upgrade probably 3 or 4 months ago. And it's interesting that we just got final approvals for the upgrade, I believe earlier this week, a couple of days, 3 days ago. So we are approved to move over to 10.03. And what I wanted to share with the group today is really kind of what strategy did we use to get our business on board with moving to a later version of A+. And these are just some of the things that we talked about with the business leadership to kind of get people interested in making the transition. And one of the things that we brought up to the business is, you know, we pointed at the Infor lifecycle policies. And, you know, what we found was that, you know, mainstream maintenance is really where we want to be from an ERP perspective. ERP is really the foundation of everything that we do in our business. And we thought that having that mainstream maintenance was really important. And we have actually leveraged mainstream maintenance over the course of the entire year with issues that come up in the ERP. And we can certainly, you know, reach out to Infor, and Infor is very, very responsive. They've been on calls with us to help us with certain aspects of the ERP where there are questions, specifically around financials and how to configure things in a certain way to get a certain result in the general ledger and things like that. We've used them over the course of the year, over the course of several years, and we are on mainstream maintenance. So we use that as kind of a financial incentive, because with mainstream maintenance, you have predictable, what I consider to be predictable maintenance costs over the next 3 years. So it does provide us with a stable, predictable way to travel the next 36 months. And in IT, from our perspective, we always think in terms of 36 months from a strategy perspective. And then, you know, every year we always look at the next 36 months so that we can continue to have a strategy that lasts for more than the immediate future. The other thing that we discussed with our business was, you know, mod evaluation. When we go through a upgrade process, it gives us an opportunity to look at all of the modifications that we have to the base package. We can evaluate those modifications and do cleanup around that. And that's really important for us. It's important for us to give us stability in the application. It reduces the the bugs, and it improves the overall performance of the application. So it does give us the ability to really take a focused look at everything that we've done to the application over the course of time, and to get rid of those in some cases, because the new version of the code is going to do things for us that that we might have modified in the past, right? So a great example is the rebate processing. A couple of years ago, Infor put out a new rebate module, or actually they enhanced the whole rebate processing inside of A+. Well, rebates are something that we deal with. Vendor rebates are something we deal with every single month, every single transaction. So when we went to the later version of the code, we were able to leverage some of that rebate technology and get rid of modifications, which helps make our environment more supportable by Infor. There's also, an improved employee experience, which is really important at Thermo Fisher Scientific. We focus a lot on the employee experience. How do our employees feel on a daily basis, because they spend so much time at work, at a level that is acceptable. So we think moving employees on a voluntary basis from a green screen application to a web interface does two things. Number one, legacy employees that are currently running green screen will have an option to move to the web interface. Infor worked with us very, very carefully to make sure that we were licensed properly so that we could offer people that alternative. It also helps brand new people. So when you're hiring somebody, you guys are looking at me, so I'm like 85 years old here, but when you're hiring people into the business, typically you're hiring people in some cases that are coming right out of college. So the last thing they want to do is come in and sit down and spend an entire day on what they consider to be a DOS-based environment. So this improved employee experience is really important. And with the web UI enablement in 10.03, we're going to have a really nice application for our user base. Documented functional enhancements. Our partners in crime for Infor A+, we partner with Aktion, and Aktion has been able to provide us with documented functional enhancements in a booklet format that's very easy to consume. When we go live with the application, we bring on functional enhancements over time. We try not to go live and change things for the users. We try to go live with what they have today and then improve their experience over time using these functional enhancements. And again, Aktion has done a great job with capturing all of that content and helping us understand what we would like to improve over the course of time. And then those are some of the strategy elements that we used to help our business understand the need to move to the later version. And then there's also this Infor OS integration, which is included with our version that we're going to be getting. And I believe, Phil, you're going to take over and talk a little bit about this Infor OS that's included. Is that correct?
Sure, Randy. Thanks for leading off here. With the release of 10.03.01, what Infor provided was the integration using a tool set called Infor OS, which is a collection of business operating services for the cloud. And know that OS is not an operating system. This is the cloud, so you no longer have to worry about operating systems. Instead, it's a service-based platform that you can consume and build new competitive solutions. So Infor committed back in about 2 years ago and said, hey, their statement of direction is to allow connectivity to A+. They're going to slow down or stop doing green screen modifications and instead extend the applications. And the way they're going to extend the application is through the Infor OS tooling, which is available to only those customers that are on 10.03.01, which is the latest release. This actually was just released just a few months ago. And it's a whole new suite. Some of you may have some experience with these predecessor products in the past, such as Ion, which was the ability to connect really anything to A+ using web services. We've had quite a few customers using the Ion services, which is still in Infor OS to connect A+ to things like Microsoft CRM, Infor CRM, Salesforce.com. And a number of customers have gotten very creative and handy with the integration tool set and done integrations using Ion technology or Infor OS technology to connect to other solutions. The fact of the matter now that the Infor OS is cloud-based really simplifies this solution quite a bit. Some of the earliest versions were very painful to stand up. I think the earliest version that we stood up was probably around 2015 or 16 and required about 9 servers, which was really painful. I felt bad for those early adopters. Some still use it and have hung with it because it does provide nice two-way communication back and forth to A+ using a common XML data set. So we were kind of excited about them coming out with this. We've been in touch with the product management team and they delivered on their promises. They said this is what's coming and they're going to do it. I know further on, Infor expects to use this tool set, this Infor OS, to do other connection work. Perhaps one of the first things I know, I'm not an Infor employee, I can't speak for them, but I know what I have heard from their development team is that Infor Rhythm, which is a next generation storefront product, is going to be connected to A+ via this Infor OS. So it's really good technology. I've been on a couple of demos of it with a few customers, and it's terrific technology. Does great user experience, all GUI, web-based, allows you to do collaboration. It ties into the workflow application, which is a very lightly used application within A+. So allows you to do collaboration, extensibility. There's an integrated document management. So it's a nice piece of code that they developed. And I think it kind of gets you on your cloud journey. If you're all on-prem, this is a way that you can get on your cloud journey. And in the future, if you decide to move to another Infor application, this is really the basis of those applications. So you'll have, 1 foot in the boat already by deploying this technology. And so we're excited about it. So those were my comments on the Infor OS. I'll send it back to you, Brad.
Sure, and I'll kind of add to that as well. Both Randy and Phil, I know that's our long-term strategy is we're probably going to be on A+ for the foreseeable future for a while. But we do know that there's an evolution that we're going to need to take, and I think Infor OS is really, for us at least, that bridge to eventually moving to the cloud as well. So it helps us to kind of take it in smaller chunks. So that's something that I've got an eye on. We haven't really done anything with it yet, but it is something that I personally have been trying to stay at least very aware of and informed of for my company moving forward. And Randy, you had mentioned about the mainstream maintenance as well, and how important that is for Thermo Fisher. That's very important for us too. And the reason that we stay current, we're pretty self-supportive at American Paper and Twine. We've got a great support group internally, but we really leverage Infor's A+ support team pretty heavily ourselves too for a lot of different things, whether it's issues or just questions, because they're phenomenal. But I did want to kind of add to what you had said on the mainstream maintenance as well, and why we have made a decision to stay as current as possible. So anyway, I'd like to open it up to kind of anybody else that may have anything to add, any of the panelists or any of the attendees that want to add on what their plans are moving forward with upgrading. I know that there were a lot of attendees that were still on an older release of A+, but I'm curious to know if anybody has any other feedback that they'd like to share with the group here. No? Okay.
Brad, I thought it was interesting when we did see those statistics up there.
Yeah.
It looked to me like 60%, when you added up the 10s, 10s, it looked like 60% of the customers were on
about 10 or higher.
Yeah, and only 40%. That's we do see some. I manage 160 A+ accounts, and I can see all their releases, and that echoes kind of like what we see in our base. Our base is actually a little bit higher. I think there's been some other accounts that, we all know that A+ runs lights out,
Right.
and there's just people that run accounts that we find them all the time, and they're on version. There's a 3 out there, there's a 4, there's a 5, there's a 6, there's a 7. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
they're for me, they're very excited to hear events like this. I think us, getting out in front of them, and I'm, basically in sales, but when they hear other customers talking, I think it's very powerful. So I appreciate both you and Randy kind of talking a little bit about the upgrades.
I agree.
The only thing I would add there is just to say that, it is a little bit of a daunting task when you think about trying to do the upgrade, but if you have the right partners, and you have an application management protocol that you use, or you understand what that application management has looked like over the course of time, your partners can help you get to the latest release. So it's not something that's impossible to do. It's just something that you have to focus on. We actually do upgrades and improvements at the same time. And it's all about just code control. So it's not as daunting. So if you're on a lower release, reach out to your partner and talk to them about, what it might take, because you'll find that it's very affordable, and it's also something you can sell to your leadership team. So
yeah, and that mod evaluation really, we do the same thing when we upgrade too, is we go through a very, very detailed mod review, and really urge, the business to really adopt standard functionality in place of some of those mods where we can. Now, some of the mods obviously are a big competitive advantage for us, whether it's for efficiency or customer service, but a lot of times the mods either aren't used anymore, they're obsolete, or they're replaced with base functionality. So that mod cleanup is definitely a big benefit of just kind of cleaning house a little bit too. But okay, very good. Well, thank you very much. The next topic that we'd like to discuss has to do with A+ Web. So Gloria, I'd like to introduce the second poll question, and get a feel for how many of our attendees here are using A+ Web. So if you can just answer that poll.
Be nice to see this feedback.
Yeah.
This product's been around a long time. There's been a few iterations of it. I recall working with some of the earliest versions of this back in 2009, 10, 11.
Yep.
We tried to develop our own product at that time. And I think that the Infor product stayed on track with the Siegel Lega Suite, which is becoming the standard for all I-Series shops, not just A+ shops. When you look around, I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this. I'd like to just weigh in a little bit on that.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. It really, I've got a long history, obviously, with A+, even dating back before American Paper and Twine, and the evolution of A+ Web and A+ GUI has definitely, there has been a strong evolution over the years, and the new version really is phenomenal and makes it so much easier to administer and deploy. But it looks like the poll answers are up, and we have about 10% of our attendees here are completely on A+ Web or A+ GUI. 57% are not using it at all. 10% are in process, and we've got 24% where some people in their company are using A+ Web and others are using green screen. So that's really great feedback. Just to go through some of the presentation topics here, and I wanted to talk about some of the advantages, and Randy did make comment of some of the advantages, and it's certainly a lot of overlap in what I have seen as well. But first I'll say that my company has been using A+ Web from the very beginning. We actually came from a green screen environment before A+. When we went live with A+ in 2010, we didn't even give anybody the choice. We knew that it was going to be an adjustment for a lot of people, especially for some of the folks that had been with the company for a really, really long time. But there are so many more features in A+ Web that we felt were important for our company to use, but also from a training element for new employees coming in. You had mentioned, Randy, that it's important really to give them the look and feel of a more modern application. And I think A+ Web really goes a long way in doing that. But some of the advantages here that I've listed out are, of course, it's a more modern look and feel. It's point and click. It's a lot easier to train new employees. HTML5, the new version is completely on HTML5, which is really important from a technology standpoint. It takes out the Flash component or the Java component that was in some of the prior releases, and it's really completely browser independent. In addition, if you're taking credit card orders with that HTML5 capability, the SendPause panel on the end order screen for A+ is embedded within the HTML5 window too. So it's a lot more seamless for our folks that are entering orders and entering credit cards on the screen. I have a few print screens here too, just to bring up some of the usability. So multitasking and the quick key here, I think are really. I mean, we've got some folks in our company that I mean, you can bring up to 16 tasks at a time. I don't know if we have anyone that goes quite that far, but I know we have some folks that bring up, I don't know, 8, 10 tasks at a time, and they'll multitask between them. In some cases, even multiple order entry windows at the same time as they're keying orders and taking calls. So it really helps them to kind of jump back and forth really seamlessly between those tasks. So that's a big benefit of A+ Web. Obviously, really the look and feel and the kind of the point and click, the tabs, the calendars, the dates, the checkboxes. This is a print screen, really of the order entry header screen, but you'll see the tabs at the top. Wherever there are dates, there's a calendar lookup. The question mark windows is replaced with an eyeglass lookup. Checkboxes for yes and no fields. So it's really just a lot more modern when it comes to kind of the structure of an application and a web application. The menu cascades just make it easier to find a menu option. There's a lot of search capability for menu options as well. Favorites is something that a lot of our users will add menu options as personal favorites for themselves, so that they can go in and just select their favorite. It's almost like a customized menu for every user that we have in the company. So we take advantage of that quite a bit. Grid exports to Excel is something that certainly is not available within the green screen, but is within a pretty fair number of grid enabled screens within A+ Web as well. And actually, that's the end of my print screens, but I did want to open it up for conversation as well. It looks like we have a lot of folks that are not using A+ Web today. I'm curious to know if you're interested in it, as well as if it's something that you have looked to eventually move over to A+ Web as well. I know the later versions with the HTML5 are a huge benefit and makes it a lot easier to deploy. But if anyone would like to jump on the panel discussion here, I'm very curious to hear if anyone has any feedback or anything regarding A+ Web. Why are you using it? Why aren't you using it? I do have a question. Is A+ Web the same as GUI? It is the same. Infor actually changed the name from A+ GUI to A+ Web, and the reason for that was because of the technology that used to be used was more of a client that was installed on each individual desktop computer that was using it. So that was A+ GUI. That evolved at, I think, version 10.02, if I remember, maybe 10.01, into a complete HTML5 rework of A+, and they called it A+ Web just because it's completely browser enabled at that point. So any other questions about A+ Web?
There was a few in the chat there, Brad. I saw
One in particular from Aaron, and one that just populated also in the Q&A bank too. So
all right,
Aaron's been very chatty, by the way. We should probably ask him if we can unmute him and bring him into the conversation.
Aaron, you want to join in? So Aaron did have a question on how custom fields are displayed within A+ Web. That's kind of a two-part answer. So you've got custom screens, which are dynamically built. So there is a dynamically built package within it as well. Custom fields on like an order entry screen or things like that do require some customization within A+ Web as well. It really depends on how that field was built. So hopefully, Aaron, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Now, I don't think you do use A+ Web, is that right?
I think we're licensed for, some of our users are licensed for it, but we just don't use it because of that reason, where if
Right.
we added a field to a screen, we would have to make that change both to the DDS and also to the A+ Web portion.
Right. What we found actually is there are some changes that do require that touching of the A+ Web package within LegaSuite, but there are even for a GUI-ized or a web-ized screen, some fields that you add actually come on without a problem. Function keys are definitely not a problem for the most part, but there are a lot of, some of it depends on how you actually create the modification to the DDS as well. Sometimes it comes through with no issues at all.
Good.
One thing I'd like to know too about this product, what I find interesting about it is just this week, I went out to LegaSuite's website, and what's really going on is a lot of people are buying their tool set. Like Aktion owns the tool set, and we can do modifications. So if we do a mod for a customer, and we need to touch the green, the LegaSuite software, we can make it match and be perfectly seamless. But what I know customers, particularly the larger customers, what I think would be worthwhile to look at for a full modernization is to perhaps buy the tool set yourselves and extend it, because I know a lot of people use A+, but they have other stuff out there. And we had training about 2 years ago, and it was 1 week they came up, and I just see that as a terrific way to extend A+, and to really make it a seamless application.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of Infor OS, which is really trying to pull together a bunch of apps and make it a seamless window pane for the end user. So I think I would encourage you larger customers to think about it.
So
I don't
what is that
disagree.
tool set?
It's actually it's a developer tool set for LegaSuite, and there are actually a couple other questions in the question bank and in the chat related to that too. We had someone that was asking how to make those customizations within A+ Web, and there's a developer from LegaSuite. It's really not all that expensive actually, where you would bring up the screens. I'm not familiar with actually using it from a technical perspective myself, but we actually bought it. And we're doing our own customizations for a little bit too. We right now we use Aktion for most of those web customizations, but honestly, there's not a whole lot that we've had to make in the past. So that's kind of it's not necessarily, you don't have to know CSS or HTML in order to customize it. It's really just knowing that tool set that Phil had is the LegaSuite developer that Phil had made comment to. I also have a question on custom screens within A+ Web. I think I answered that earlier as well, but custom screens are what's called dynamically built. They don't look like what I have here with the grid on the screen, or exactly like what you would see, but they actually do dynamically build pretty nicely. So it's better than a layover to the green screen. It is better than that, but it's not quite as I don't know, as pretty as you'll see with some of the grids and some of the question marks. For that, you would need the developer in order to customize that. But we've decided not to really do anything with our custom menus or our custom screens. We also have a question. This is probably a good question for you, Phil. Is there a minimum A+ version requirement to use A+ Web? Do you know what the minimum version is?
For the web product, it's 10.01 actually.
Right.
And then the A+ GUI, which I believe Infor is still selling, would probably go back to like 8.02. So
8.02.
something
Okay.
like 8.02 and up, you have a
Right.
a chance. But we love the new rendering A+ web
Yeah.
that is so much better. I would
Yeah.
encourage whoever it is to try to get to the latest release and then deploy the web. Because like you
Yeah.
said, it's HTML5. I haven't seen it, Brad, but that would more likely render on an iPhone, an iPad, really anything, I would think.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, you wouldn't really want to use A+ on an iPhone
Right.
or even an iPad, but you've got to be connected to the same network. So, but that said, I would completely agree with you, Phil. I think A+ Web, being browser enabled, really, and browser independent, I think is adds a lot more value to me anyway than because we came from A+ GUI. When we originally went live with A+2, and going to A+ Web was a huge advantage for us. We have a question: is A+ Web the same as A+ GUI? It's the upgrade of A+ GUI. It's not the same as A+ GUI. There was for us a cost involved when we upgraded to 10.02 a couple of years ago in order to convert our licenses over from A+ GUI, and it's Rocket licenses, it's the Legacy Suite licenses that are required to convert it from the A+ GUI over to the A+ Web. So hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions on A+ Web? I don't think so. So why don't we, Gloria, move on to our next poll question. And this topic that we're going to talk about are third-party applications that you currently use today, in any particular business area. So if you can take a little bit of time to go through and just identify where you're using a third-party add-on to A+. So this would include anything from really we can call it forms management or Optio to Max Recall and document management, or there's really a tremendous amount of opportunities and options that are out there. How are we doing on the poll, Gloria?
We have 20 responses out of 32 that are online. And I know that with selecting all that apply, I wanted to give it just a few more seconds, if that's okay with you, Brad, to let
Yeah.
people go through them selectively.
Yep,
Give it
definitely.
10 more seconds.
All right.
Thanks. And there's your results, Brad.
Great, thank you, Gloria. So we have we've got a fair amount being used. A lot of folks responded, and document management, we've got 57% using a Max Recall or something of that nature. E-commerce, 43% of our attendees. We've got 19% using a product, a PIM or a data management system. 86% using a forms management system, which is not surprising. 43% use a routing or delivery system. 48% using CRM, 86% are using EDI, 19% are using some sort of a tax software, 24% using a supply chain procurement system, and 38% using warehouse and logistics. So why don't I just kind of leave it off to you, Phil, to kind of introduce that topic and discuss a little bit more about that.
Very good. Really, what purpose of this session is to just talk about third-party products that people connect to A+. And when I go visit customers, or those of you that have been on my, what I call the State of the Union or the State of A+, I draw a picture and I put A+ in the middle, and then I show all the spokes that go out into various solutions. such as Avalara or e-commerce and things like that. And what's really been good, for the A+ community is that there's a wide variety of these third-party products to connect to. And some things that I like to do is I talk to so many customers, and some are new to me, to Aktion, and I'll walk in and I'll be like, oh, what are you using for credit card? Oh, Curbstone. And, what are you using for faxing? Oh, it's Quadrant. And some of those solutions were good in their day, perhaps in the 2010 area, but some of those have been replaced with really SendPOS perhaps, or more advanced applications that have really done a good job. And one of the things that TUG did in 2015, it's a bunch of users got together and polled each other on 28 topics. Such as, BI, and what they did is the users said, hey, for example, BI, they said, oh, here's the list of products: Cognos, CoreView, MITS, Focus, and I found that, really CRM, Infor CRM, in-house, Salesforce. And I felt like that document was really good, and I use it often. So if someone calls me and says, hey, and what you guys did back then was you expanded it to other things like, applicant tracking, which is, or time cards or payroll or HRMS. So there were 28 individual topics. The big ones, that I thought were helpful were, routing, we all know forms. Those are, Optio or Unform owns that space, and that's it. Story's over. But some of the newer ones are emerging is PIM. I've probably been pinged on that quite a bit the last few years, like, hey, what's a good PIM? And that wasn't even on the list, in 2015. So as things change, and it's nice to have that. So one of the things I'd like to talk about perhaps is to, get some people, maybe using TUG, we can create a poll, we have new technology, and perhaps send it out and assemble that data. And what I think that would do is help some of the A+ customers that are maybe going down a path of looking at routing or transportation management, where there's RoadNet, there's Roadshow, there's ProShip. And perhaps if they're leaning towards a Roadshow, they can go to a document and be like, oh, Roadshow, Randy from Thermo Fisher uses that. Let me get a read on that and see what he thinks about it. So I refer to this document quite a bit. And what's nice is on the cover page are all the customers, some of which are on the call today, kind of provided the feedback. They said, hey, look, these are the third-party products that we're using. It really assembled Brad, the poll we just did was high level, but it's kind of like the next level. Like, okay.
I think that's a great idea, Phil. One of the things we may want to think about doing, even as customers, right, Infor customers, is maybe posting kind of a real living document on the TUG portal that really outlines all of those third-party applications that folks are using, so that we can refer back to it if we're thinking about going to something. I know for us, you talked about the evolution of technology, right? And EDI is one of those too. The traditional X12 is always used, but we also have, CXML is obviously really kind of gaining a lot of traction now too. And I don't want to say we're struggling, but it becomes really a management issue for us to be able to manage all of those transactions using multiple applications. We're looking for really one central piece where we can just take the data in one format and send it in whatever format that we want based on what the customer needs. So EDI is something that is kind of on our forefront, but there's a lot of other technologies, especially moving to the cloud, I think that that people can really share and hopefully really learn from each other on what works and what hasn't and what's changing.
Yeah, that was really what I wanted to talk about, Brad. And hopefully we can use this forum as a springboard to perhaps, maybe the audience that's on the call, maybe a TUG poll goes out and we can, ask them to answer questions. We can drill down a little bit and make it nice and easy. This polling is terrific. So that was really my idea on this call, was to see if we can update this document from 15 and perhaps get some new blood in there and some new ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will also add, if there are any specific topics, I know this was kind of a general third-party application topic that we've got, but if there's any specific topics or specific things that people want to really have another roundtable discussion on in the future, definitely please put it in the chat, and we'll certainly add that to the agenda for one of our future calls as well, and really dive a lot deeper into a specific area of third-party application or integration, because I think that's something that really all of us, it looks like, are taking advantage of. So, all right.
Next topic.
Does anyone have any other questions on that? It looks like we do have a question that came up in the Q&A.
Looks like a general one we can maybe cover at the end, Brad.
Yeah. Yep, I think you're right. So, okay, very good. Well, Gloria, I'd like to introduce the final poll question that we have. And this really goes around where can TUG add additional value for all of the A+ customers. And if there are, one of the things that we've been looking into is adding education topics or specific webinars that TUG would host. Really, I mean, largely targeted towards all of your end users as well. So we're really interested in learning about what topics you would like to introduce to the end users or the department managers in your companies that we may be able to potentially add as a future webinar for A+. So if you can all kind of select all that apply here, and then we'll close the poll in a few minutes, or probably in about a minute.
So far, we have 7 responses. Come out wherever you are. We want to hear from you.
And if there's anything not listed, definitely put it in the chat, and we'll kind of call those out too.
And also, if
And
you're
Brad,
not interested in any training, then click other and put that in the chat as well.
Right.
And Brad, we have 11 responses thus far. When we get to the point before we close and I share results, my recommendation is to have someone on your team or you capture a screenshot to make sure that we know for future planning going forward.
Excellent.
I think that because there's so much volume here, we're still seeing people read. It's a little longer that we usually leave on, but we really want to see these results. So right now we have 17 respondents out of the 32 online.
Okay.
If anybody else, we're only at 47%. We'd like to get to about 70 to 75% minimum. And you guys have been great thus far. So if you can jump on there and plug a couple keys in terms of what you'd like to see going forward, that will help your leadership gear that information and planning ahead. I feel like I need some Jeopardy music. Final answer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this, Brad.
All right. Thank you, Gloria.
And there's your results.
Very good. So we've got Warehouse and RF actually kind of took the lead there, but there were a lot of topics that were were a lot of interest actually. So what we'll do is, I don't know, I think you can see that as well, Gloria. I'm sorry, Rhea.
Yeah.
So I am going to turn it over to you to kind of lead this discussion as well.
All right. Oh, can I have the poll back?
You bet. There
Okay.
you go.
Because I think we do have a call-in user who's not looking at the screen. So for customer service and order entry, we had 58% respond. Inventory control purchasing, 53%. Warehouse and RF, as Brad said, 63%. Pricing and rebates, 42%. Finance, AP, AR, general ledger, 42%. Warehouse transfers, 26%. Special order processing, 53%. And we have 11% in the other category. And so I'm looking to see if anyone's typed anything in.
I don't see anything that's populated in the chat bar yet, but this would be a great time for anyone who did respond to other to go ahead and drop that into the chat window so that your panelists can see what type of content you'd like to see going forward.
Okay. And so part of the reason that we're asking this question is, you know, we want to find out as the A+ network, we want to know what TUG can do for you. You know, what your interests are. Do we want to do more training? We'd like to see your end users get involved as well. And I think one of the benefits of a virtual TUG conference is that more people can attend who wouldn't normally be able to travel. So we could offer some, you know, some targeted training to your end user if that's of interest. I don't see anyone coming on with their others. So the A+ Network Group is partnering with TUG, hoping to offer some webinars, a webinar series. We'd like to include some training in that. And I see from your responses that we have a good place to start from. I guess what I'm seeing is when we talked about the A+ GUI versus green screen, is that we'll also need to figure out how to offer that training in both platforms. Wondering if, you know, we would combine that in one training session, or if we would have a targeted, you know, customer service on A+ Web, you know, or on green screen or the RF, or, you know, any of those different topics. So I think that's something that we all need to think about. And if anyone in attendance here has any ideas, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, you know, I will say, Rhea, I mean, the training to me is definitely, again, one of my goals is to really kind of bring back the vibrancy of the A+ user group, but not only that, but really to really bring on additional users at companies to be able to take advantage of the community that we have as well. I think sharing between each other, learning, education opportunities, both for webinars and TUG Connects 365, and also for the conference that we're having, the formal TUG Connects conference that we're having in the spring as well. So that's definitely an area that that I think there's a ton of opportunity for everybody to take advantage of within a company, not just the kind of the point people or the technology leaders that that are on the phone here. So.
Well, that might be all that I have, Brad.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think, I mean, I would like to open it up if there are any other discussion topics that anybody would like to bring up. Then please put them in the chat, and we're certainly welcome to introduce any other topics that that people may want to talk about.
Brad, sorry, Brad, I just wanted to let you know that Kevin had responded back to your comment that was in the closed questions under the answered column. And he says,
Yep.
Can you raise these topics to other users, because it would be nice to have their input as well. So can you just
Sure.
return to that topic for a moment?
I
please?
will. Yeah. So Kevin Din from Dalco had a few questions, and he's interested to know, number one, are upgrades worth doing? So, and I'll answer that. And from our perspective at American Paper and Twine, we feel like upgrades have been worth it over the years. I think that's something, and it's for our ERP for A+, but also for other products that are strategic products for us. And for me, the upgrades have been well worth it. And it really has to do with the feature function that's added, the enhancements that have been made over the system over the years. And we are able to take advantage of those enhancements, but also to take advantage of the support group at Infor. I don't know if any of the other panelists have any other input to add on that, but that's definitely something for us that we feel is important. Curious to know if anyone else has any feedback, or if any of the other participants have any feedback on that too. If you want to put it in the question bank or in the Q&A as well.
So My company, Atlantic, is currently on 804. So we're part of that population that's on an older version. We had plans to upgrade. Well, I should say we were planning to do an upgrade, and then the pandemic hit. And so that's kind of put us back. So we're reevaluating that and deciding when we're going to do that. But we do hope to go to the latest version when we do upgrade. And we do plan to stay on maintenance for as long as we can because we do see value in that.
Yeah. Kevin also had another question to ask if people are leaving Infor maintenance. And again, I can speak from my perspective in my company. We're not planning on leaving maintenance. It's again part of our long-term strategy for technology. I know it's an investment every year that we need to make, but that investment that we make is again part of the long-term strategy for our most important application that we use within the company. So we're not planning on leaving Infor maintenance. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or would like to comment on that within the question bank.
Yeah, Brad, this is Randy. I'll say the same thing. The essence of the maintenance and the relationship with Infor, in our opinion, is sort of foundational, because if you think about the ERP as the centerpiece of your landscape, workflows, business process, and all of that, the investment in that ERP is important for a number of reasons. But one of the main reasons is that, it provides stability for the centerpiece of your entire business, at least in our case. I mean, everything that we do in this business is wrapped around the workflows that are supported by the ERP. And, you would think that, well, I've got maintenance on these laptops, but if I lose a laptop, that's one thing. If something happens to General Ledger, I certainly want Infor to be part of that solution. You know?
Yep. Yeah. And if we ever do move to the cloud or cloud suite distribution, whatever it is, I think the jump to that, I think the more current we are, I think the jump to that is going to be that much easier for us. Which actually leads to the third question that Kevin had was, is anyone migrating to Cloud Suite distribution or to a competitor? We're not in the process of that. It's certainly something that we have really been following very, very closely. We're not at a point where we're ready to make a change. We've only been using A+ for 10 years now, so we're still kind of realizing that return on our investment, but we know that it's something that that is probably on the long-term horizon for us. But does anyone else want to make any comments on whether or not they're migrating or either to CSD or to something different?
I think the natural progression for us would be to stay with Infor when we do make that decision. I've been looking at it, like I've attended some demos and things like that. And there's nothing in it that really scares me, the product itself. But with us, we figure that's going to be down the road.
Yeah.
Down the road a ways. We think getting to the latest version is going to, extend us into the 5+ years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. This is Phil. I see in our 160 customers about a 3% attrition rate. And it's funny, I went back to that third-party poll that was done in 2015, and there were 17 clients on that list, and today there's 14. So 5 years, lost 3 off that one list. So there's a very slow attrition rate because of all the reasons that you guys have talked about on this call.
Yep. All right. I don't think we have any other questions that were unanswered, Gloria. So I think we should be ready to wrap up, and we'll certainly, I will like to, first off, I want to thank everybody for joining the call today. I think it was a great call. I really appreciate the participation and the questions that were asked, and I thank everybody for your engagement and for joining in today.
Yeah, before we wrap this up, I just wanted to mention that Aaron made a post for those that might not have the Q&A bubble. He says, you should stay on maintenance, Kevin. Kevin, this is for you. He said, without maintenance, you can't get a new A+ license key if you need to buy a new series. So we not only want to thank all of our panelists, but also that peer-to-peer learning that is so robust within our TUG community. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the screen back from you, Brad, and I apologize for a little bit of shuttling around here, folks, because I am not home with the storm. I live in Central Florida. I've had to reposition my place for safety and don't have all my production elements. So you won't find my big fire breathing, coal stoking microphone in front of me. And I've got Post-it notes with my script all over my laptop. So first of all, again, let me thank everyone that joined in today. 32 people out of 52 people that registered. That's a great response. And we see that you're hungry for information. Brad, Rhea, Randy, and Phil, you guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody that joined in and texting your chat comments. And Aaron, we loved having you unmuted. And also, for those of you that might be interested, I want to let you know that we have another program today at 2 o'clock that we're going to have Central Data talking about their CD Ships program. And also on Tuesday, Unilink is going to be providing a program on their platform with everything about EDI. So look for your email inbox and also the web forum boards to check where that link is. Also, this session is going to be recorded. It will be posted on the appropriate forum boards. And for those of you who might not know it, we have probably 24 karat gold more behind the scenes than we do in this kind of a format. So if you are not yet a TUG member, go to www.theusergroup.org and join today. It makes great sense because one membership is for all of your employees. And on that note, I'm going to conclude. And as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap, folks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.